You wake up, head straight to the kitchen, and prepare that usual hot cup of coffee, believing it's something normal, maybe even healthy. But then the frustration starts. Even while trying to eat better, avoiding sweets, and drinking coffee without sugar, your blood sugar still stays high. And little by little, that quiet doubt begins to grow. Could coffee actually be harming me? A lot of people start exactly there. Some even quit coffee completely hoping it will help control their glucose levels, but the numbers still don't improve, and the feeling of discouragement only gets worse. The hardest part is feeling like you're making an effort and still seeing no results. But there's an important truth that almost nobody explains properly. Most of the time, coffee is not the real problem. The real issue is the way it's consumed first thing in the morning and the foods that usually come with it without people even realizing it. Plain coffee contains almost no carbohydrates, certainly not enough to behave like bread, cake, cookies, or juice. The problem is that in real life, coffee rarely comes alone. It's usually paired with white bread, crackers, cake, tapioca, fruit juice, or other foods that send blood sugar rising very quickly. Then glucose spikes, the body tries to compensate, energy crashes, and before long the hunger returns even stronger. People start feeling sleepy, irritated, craving snacks again, and suddenly they're trapped in a cycle that repeats every single day. And here's the strange part. Coffee gets blamed, when the real problem was everything surrounding it all along. Let me pause for a moment, because this has everything to do with what we've been talking about. When these signs start showing up more often, many people realize the body may need extra support to regain balance. I left something in the first pinned comment related to natural ingredients that have been getting attention around this topic. Now let's continue, because this gets even more interesting. There's another important detail that very few people know. The way you drink coffee right after waking up can completely change how your body responds. Drinking coffee on a completely empty stomach may seem harmless, but for many people it increases cortisol levels even more. Cortisol is known as the stress hormone, and when it rises too much early in the morning, the liver receives a signal to release extra glucose into the bloodstream as a quick source of energy. The result is higher blood sugar even before eating a proper meal. That's why many people check their glucose in the morning and can't understand why the numbers are already high. They think, but I haven't even had breakfast yet. What they don't realize is that the body had already entered an alert state before the first real meal of the day. The good news is that the solution usually doesn't require extreme changes. In many cases, giving up coffee completely isn't necessary at all. Sometimes it's simply about changing the order of your morning habits. Drinking water before coffee already helps. Even better is eating a small source of protein before caffeine enters your system. It can be something simple like a boiled egg, a piece of cheese, or plain unsweetened yogurt. Small changes like these create a more stable foundation for the body and help prevent large glucose swings throughout the morning. And this is exactly where certain natural ingredients can become very helpful when they're part of a balanced routine. Cinnamon is one of the best-known examples. It has been studied for years because of its potential to improve insulin sensitivity in some people. It's not a miracle cure and it doesn't replace medical treatment, but adding a small pinch to coffee can be a simple way to improve flavor without relying on sugar. Many people also notice fewer cravings for sweets throughout the morning when they start using cinnamon regularly. Another interesting ingredient is chia seeds. They are rich in fiber, which helps slow down sugar absorption and keeps you feeling full longer. The same applies to flax seeds and rolled oats, especially traditional oats rather than instant versions, since they have a lower glycemic impact. When these foods are combined with protein and healthy fats at breakfast, the body tends to respond much more steadily. Avocado also deserves attention. Even though many people avoid it because of the fat content, it contains healthy fats that help prevent rapid glucose spikes and keep hunger under control for longer. A small portion of avocado in the morning can support blood sugar balance far better than white bread paired with fruit juice. The real secret is not searching for one magical ingredient. True results come from building a smarter breakfast routine based on protein, fiber, and real natural foods. Because when your body starts the day with stability, the rest of the day usually becomes much easier to manage as well. There's a very common mistake that makes many people believe they're eating healthy, when, in reality, they're creating the perfect situation for blood sugar to stay unstable throughout the entire day. This happens because many foods considered light or natural can impact glucose levels far more than most people realize. One of the most common examples is the seemingly healthy breakfast: sugar-free coffee, fresh orange juice, whole wheat bread, and a ripe banana. It looks balanced, healthy, and even disciplined. But depending on the amount and combination of those foods, the body may receive a very large load of carbohydrates within the first hours of the morning. The issue is not only added sugar. Fast-digesting carbs themselves can create major glucose spikes, especially when there isn't enough protein and fiber to slow down absorption. That's exactly why some people feel hungry again very soon after eating. Blood sugar rises quickly, the body releases insulin to bring it down, and shortly afterward comes the crash. Tiredness, weakness, and strong cravings for snacks or sweets. Many people don't even realize they're trapped in this cycle because they genuinely believe they're making healthy choices. Another important point is that not every product labeled whole grain works the same way. Many foods marketed as healthy still contain refined flour, hidden sugars, and very little real fiber. The packaging may look healthy, but the body often reacts almost the same way it would to regular white bread. That's why learning to pay attention to ingredient lists is far more important than simply trusting the label on the front. One simple strategy that often helps is starting breakfast with protein first. When the body receives protein early in the morning, carbohydrates are absorbed more slowly and steadily. Eggs, cheese, plain unsweetened yogurt, and even small portions of nuts can help extend fullness and prevent that intense mid-morning hunger. Fiber also plays an extremely important role in this process. Chia seeds, flax seeds, traditional rolled oats, and leafy greens help slow the speed at which glucose enters the bloodstream. That means greater stability, fewer spikes, and less of that out-of-control feeling throughout the day. And the more stable blood sugar becomes, the less intense those constant cravings for sweets and fast carbs tend to be. Another detail many people ignore is excessive coffee intake during the day. 1 or 2 cups are usually not a problem for most people, but when coffee starts replacing actual meals, the body can remain in a constant state of alertness. Too much caffeine may interfere with sleep, increase anxiety, and keep cortisol elevated for long periods of time. And when sleep quality gets worse, blood sugar control often worsens along with it. Without realizing it, many people fall into a dangerous cycle. They sleep poorly, wake up exhausted, drink even more coffee to compensate for the lack of energy, and end up creating a routine that continuously stresses the body. That's why, instead of using coffee as fuel to ignore the body's signals, it's healthier to see it simply as part of a more balanced routine. And there's something very important that almost nobody talks about. Controlling blood sugar does not require perfection. It's not about living in fear of food or turning every meal into an obsession. What truly makes the biggest difference is consistency. Small changes repeated daily usually create far better results than extreme diets that nobody can realistically maintain long-term. When people begin replacing excessive sugar with natural ingredients, adding protein early in the day, reducing aggressive carbohydrates, and building a smarter breakfast routine, the body often responds very positively. Energy improves, hunger becomes easier to control, and even that constant feeling of exhaustion tends to gradually fade. Let me pause for a moment, because this has everything to do with what we've been talking about. When these signs start showing up more often, many people realize the body may need extra support to regain balance. I left something in the first pinned comment related to natural ingredients that have been getting attention around this topic. Now let's continue, because this gets even more interesting. Because in the end, the goal is not simply lowering a number on a lab test. The real goal is restoring stability to the body and improving the quality of everyday life. By now, you may be starting to realize that controlling blood sugar is not simply about cutting out one specific food or searching for a miracle solution online. What truly changes the game is understanding how your morning habits influence the rest of the entire day. The body works like a chain reaction. When the first meal of the day creates stability, the choices that follow usually become much easier. On the other hand, when the morning starts with rapid glucose spikes, too much sugar, and coffee on an empty stomach, the body spends hours trying to compensate for that imbalance. Energy levels fluctuate, hunger increases, and cravings for more carbohydrates become much stronger. That's why so many people struggle to control their eating later in the afternoon or evening. In most cases, the problem actually started much earlier in the day. And there's something important to remember. You do not need to completely transform your life overnight to start seeing results. Small changes done consistently usually work far better than extreme changes that only last a few days. The body responds much more to repeated habits than to short bursts of intense effort. One simple strategy is paying attention to how you feel after breakfast. Do you feel steady energy, or are you hungry again shortly afterward? Can you go through the morning comfortably, or do you constantly feel the urge to snack? These signals reveal a lot about how your body is responding to the foods you're eating. Another powerful tip is reducing excess gradually instead of trying to eliminate everything at once. Many people give up because they turn healthy eating into suffering, but the process doesn't have to feel that way. Slowly reducing sugar, adding more protein, replacing aggressive carbohydrates with more balanced options, and including fiber daily can already create a huge difference over time. Hydration also matters far more than most people realize. Some people wake up and drink coffee immediately without having any water first, then spend much of the morning mildly dehydrated. This can increase feelings of fatigue, confuse hunger signals, and even lower energy throughout the day. Something as simple as drinking a glass of water right after waking up already helps the body function better before the first cup of coffee even begins. And when it comes to natural ingredients, balance is always the key. Cinnamon, chia seeds, oats, flax seeds, avocado, and leafy greens can all be very helpful as part of a smart routine, but no single food can compensate for excessive sugar, poor sleep, and disorganized habits. The body works as a complete system. The more balance that exists in your daily routine, the better the results tend to become. It's also important to stop seeing blood sugar control as only a matter of restriction. Many people live in constant fear of food, as if eating itself were always a problem. But the goal is not to live with anxiety or guilt around meals. The real goal is learning how to build meals that provide fullness, stability, and energy, without creating that endless cycle of cravings and overeating throughout the day. And perhaps this is the most important part of all. Real results usually appear quietly. First, people notice they feel less hungry. Then they begin waking up with more energy. After that, sleep often improves, cravings for sweets become weaker, and the body feels more stable throughout the day. In many cases, these changes begin before lab results even start improving. That's why, instead of chasing quick fixes or miracle promises, it's far more valuable to build a routine your body can realistically maintain in a natural way. Because when healthy habits stop feeling temporary and become part of everyday life, the body usually responds much more positively. Coffee does not necessarily need to be removed from your life. In fact, when used the right way, it can still remain part of your daily routine without becoming an enemy to your health. The most important thing is understanding that real blood sugar control does not come from fear. It comes from smart choices repeated consistently every single day. And in the end, it's those small daily choices that create the biggest transformations over time. And before we finish, if this topic made sense to you, it may be worth taking a look at the first pinned comment. I left something related to this topic that may complement everything we talked about today. Thank you for being here, and I'll see you in the next video.